Hello, this is Isaac, and this is part 2 of this short series. In this part, I want to talk about the backend, about Elixir, because then it will make more sense when I'm going to show you the React part. Okay? So first of all, just want to mention that I added two libraries, two packages to my Elixir Phoenix app. It's the come on in. This is going to help us to validate password and to hash password as well. And the course plug, so we can allow cross origin requests through Ajax, and we don't have to rely on JSONP or some other stuff. Okay, quite simple. Now let me show you the part that I like about Elixir Phoenix, and I always like to talk about it. It is very explicit. This is the route file, right? Every backend needs to have some routing, because we're building a REST API. So notice that we have like pipelines, and these are all functions. Plug. If you don't know what plug is, you can think about it as a middleware. It's not really a middleware, but you can think about it. It's like functions that we can apply them on on requests, basically. So notice here, if we're talking about a browser when it's HTTP request, so it's very common to protect from forgery, or here we want to secure the whole route itself. Now for the API pipeline, we only need to accept JSON. We're not going to use the protect from forgery because otherwise it's going to cause us some errors. So this is the API scope, right? Pipe through API. See, very explicit. I want a pipe through from API. Very clear, right? And these are all the routes that I have: resources, rooms, and I can set the param. I want it to be token. So usually the default is to be ID, but I want it to be a token. And I can define here except new edit show, because this is different, right? We're talking about API. I don't need this. There's no pages that I'm showing. I'm requesting data. So let's take a look right here. You can run something like mix phoenix.routes, and it will show you all the routes. Okay, and you will see the actions. Now notice the controller is this is the module name. So chat secure.api, because you might have the same controller that serves the regular app, not an API client. So you don't want to get confused. So this is the routing file, very clear, very simple. And let's first of all refresh this page, right? Remember, token failed verification, reason is invalid. So the first thing we're doing, we want to verify the user's token. So how are we going to do that? So we have the user controller, and this is the action that it hits. It hits the verify token. Now this is another feature that Phoenix has. Phoenix has built-in tokens. So technically you don't need libraries like Jot. You can use them. Maybe you find a different purpose, but you have a built-in token. And notice that it's invalid because we have no token. We need to log in. So let's log in. And I have the user. I'm logged in. Everything is correct. This is our token. Now notice what I did here. I can verify the token by age. This is 14 days. On purpose, I'm doing it 5 days just so I can show you this is the error that's going to happen. Now, if this whole thing is new to you, Elixir is a functional programming language. It relies heavily on pattern matching. So all of this is pattern matching, because you might ask yourself, how is this called, or how is this called? So if the response, the first parameter of the response will be okay, it will pattern match this one, and this will be called. If it's going to be an error, it will pattern match this one. It's a very powerful feature, pattern matching. It gives you so much power, because you can define many functions with the same name, just different arguments that expect different parameters. And okay, 5 seconds I believe passed, right? Let's click refresh. Reason expired, and you see I got out of the app right on the box, right on the spot. Reason expired. If I'll put it back as max age, and I can get rid of this. Let's refresh the page, and I'm logged in again, right on the spot. You see how beautiful it is? Because like I showed you in the previous part, I still have it in the session storage, so it will always look for it when it tries to verify the token. So this is how we verify the token. Quite simple. Let's see, what do we want to do? We want to update. Click update. So you can imagine we have an update action. These are all actions and they expect parameters to receive it. They always expect to receive the token. Now, if I'm gonna because it's doing pattern matching, if I'm gonna delete this, it's not gonna even hit it. I'm gonna get an error right on the spot because it's gonna say that it can't find a route. So we need to be very explicit on what we are doing. Now, notice this line, con.assign current user. Well, where are we getting the current user? A plug. This is the plug that I've created. It's called verify token and set user. Just to show it to you, you might ask, how is it available? Well, this great file, web.ex, I can add things. So for the controller, I'm importing chatsecure.auth, which is the plug module. And I want to have the authenticate user available and the verify token and set user available. Now this we're not using. This is for the regular website, but I'm just still keeping it. So this is going to be available. This is how we can call it. Now if I'm going to take a look at this folder, the auth.ex, first I added many comments like I said to make it clear for you, because we're not using all of these functions for the API. So we have here verify token and set user. So the con is a very useful feature of Elixir Phoenix. It's going to hold the whole data on the specific request, including params, including, I don't know what kind of JSON request is it, get, patch. So we have the token because we are sending it from the client. If we won't send it, we're going to get an error. So we send the token and we're getting it, and then we verify it by 14 days. You can easily change it to a week, 2 days, doesn't matter. If it's verified, then we're going to find the user. So we're calling the repo module. In this case, we need to explicitly mention chatsecure.repo because we don't have it available in this specific function. And this is what good also about Elixir. You can just call the module and it will be available. It gives you like a lot of power. You don't have to use namespaces all the time like when you do with OOP. And I'm going to assign the current user. Now, this assign is a feature of the connection of the con. So we can assign current user. We can assign whatever we want here. We can assign 10, 20 different variables if we want to use. So once we assign it, we have it available. And let's go to the user controller. Let's go to the update. We have it available in the con.assign as the current user. Because remember, I define here that I want to plug this plug only when the user, the request hits either edit, update, and as you can see here. So it's very useful. Oh, by the way, we're not deleting a user, so ignore that. Okay, so this is how it works. And if there's an error, notice this, what we're doing here. Because we didn't hit the controller action yet, and if there's an error, we just want to halt everything. We want to stop everything, and we're going to return back an error. You see, again, this is very explicit. We're going to put status not found, and we're just going to turn a text, user not found. Okay? So this is going to give you a taste on how things work. I don't want to spend too much time on every action here because you can guess how it works. Just look at the repo, see which route a request hits, and then see what it is doing. Okay? If let's take a look at the session controller. And I need the one in the API. Okay, this is the session controller, and when the user hits that, of course he must pass us the email and the password. I'm going to downcase the email right here. I'm passing it to the login by email and pass API. This is again in the auth file, and let's take a look at it. Login and email by pass. So we're getting the email, we're getting the password. We are passing it the repo. We're passing it the repo, so we can have it available. So in this case, we don't need to do chatsecure.repo. We have it available. We're just gonna we need to fetch it like this, and then we find the user by get by email. We use this is all Ecto. This is the wrapper that works against the database. Kind of like ORM, but it's not really an ORM. You can read more about it. And here we're using the library, the command library. We're gonna check, see if the password is equal to the password hash. And if it is, great. We're gonna return back the user. We always need to pass the connection back and forth, because remember, the request is coming, it's being transformed, and a response is set. And all this transformation happens on the con, because this is holding all the data about the request, all the parameters, everything we need to change, we change through this. So if everything is okay, we send back we approve it. Once it's approved, we're going to put the status okay, and in this case, we're going to generate a new token, because the user logged in, he has no token, so he wants the token. And we're going to render a file. Again, pattern matching. In this case, we're specifying which file we want to render. We're going to render chat secured API.userView. So if I'm going to look here to check the user view, again, pattern matching. So you can assume I want to render user.json, and I want to pass to it the token and the user. So you can imagine it's going to hit the user.json. We got the token, we got the user. And I'm going to send back the user ID, the username, and the token. This is a map, and this is how we're returning back data to the backend. So let's refresh the page. We don't need to refresh. Let's just go to a secured app, update password. You see, I'm getting the username, I'm getting the token, I'm getting the ID, because it's coming from here. Now these are all different, but you can imagine how it works. You want to update, we're sending back a flash. This is how we did it, right? This is the flash. This is where it's coming from. I choose what to render. Very explicit. This is very easy to work with. Okay. Here it is. This is the update one. Again, we are the plug, the set verification. This plug is going to work on it, on the update. It's going to go over, and if update will succeed, then everything is okay. Now let me just talk a while on this change set. Change set is going to hold all the data before you insert it to the database. If there's a problem, it will return you back an error, and like you can see here. So we need to take a look at the model of the user in our case. So this is our schema. Virtual means it's not going to be persisted to the database. It's virtual because the password will hold the password in an unsecured manner, and then when it will hash it, then the password hash will be stored in the database. The same thing for the password confirmation. Now, this is the change set that I'm talking about. So these, for example, are required fields. So all of these are functions that I'm throwing on the data. So I'm going to validate the length. I'm going to validate the length of the email, the length of the username. So if I'm going to make this 2 letters, and I click update, email has invalid format, and email should be at least 3 characters. Just like we mentioned here. If I comment this out, okay, and I save it, let's run again the update. I only get invalid format. Very smooth, very easy, very simple. Okay, so let's go over it. You have everything in the repo. And I want to show you also the channels, how they are working. We don't want to forget that. That's the nice part. That's actually also the easiest part. Okay. So we have the socket. When I'm hitting, let's create a room. It's called Elixir. Let's hit the room. I've created now a connection. I'm not getting back any error. I'm creating the connection. This is the connection, and I'm sending back the token. Because again, if I'll put here 5 seconds, let me refresh this page. You see, WebSocket connection to this URL failed. It's failed because, well, the token is not valid. It has expired. Of course, everything is going to expire with 5 seconds. So we need to refresh the page again, and it should work. And as you can see, we're not getting back any error. We are connecting to the socket. So the fact that I can pass messages, this means that I'm connected to the socket. So this is how we connect. If there's a problem, as you can see, we're going to get an error. And these are the channels. So remember, socket is like a TV. You connect to the socket, you open the TV. Then you need to pick a channel. If a channel is available, you will see it. If it's not available, maybe you'll get a notice. You need to pay for it, whatever. In this case, everything with rooms and then another name will be available. This is the wildcard. Okay? And here we're identifying the user by his ID, because in the client, I made it in a way that if the user wants to connect to the socket, he has to send the token. And through the token, once we verify the token, we're getting back the user ID, just so you can know that. Okay, once it's verified, it returns back the user ID. So this is very useful. And then that way, if I want to disconnect the user, I can just do it because he's identified. If he's not identified, then I don't know who he is, then I can't disconnect him. So it makes it more secured. So this is for this file, and this is the room.channel. This is where the fun begins. Once the user joins the channel, we want to check if there are any messages. Let's create some more messages. One, cool. And these are all, this is coming from the backend. It's sending back the message. It's broadcasting. I'm sending a message, and then the backend Phoenix is broadcasting back that message. Let's refresh the page. And this is the messages are, and this is coming from the backend. Because when we join the channel, we want to get the messages. Now, if I'm going to create another room, say React, and just React, and I'm going to go to this room, I'm not going to get any message because it's checking, it's looking for the association of the room, the specific room, and we're getting that room by name. So we're finding the room, and it's telling it, find me all the messages in the association of the room, order by sending the date, limit to 200. It doesn't really matter, you can do whatever you want. But also, I want to preload the user because the user also, we have a relationship. A user has many messages and a room has many messages. So we also want to preload the user because this is how we're going to show the user. This is how we're getting the name of the user. And then we're going to render many in this case. And we're going to need the message view. So let's take a look at the message view. And this is the message view. And all we need is the body and the user. You can add date if you want, but for our purposes, this is all I need. And I'm passing it. See, again, we're using pattern matching. I'm passing the message. And because we preloaded the user, we have the user available, so we can do message.user.username. This is how he joins. Handle in, so I'm in the React app, right? So when I'm sending here a message, right? When I'm sending something, I'm pushing a new message event. Phoenix responds to that event, so it handles it, right? Handle in. So first of all, we're getting the user from the socket because we have the user ID available in the socket because we assigned it. We assigned it once we joined the channel. Then again, this changed it. This time we're not using a controller because we're using the socket. So we want to build the association. So as you can see, this is equivalent to the message model, and user ID equal to the user ID, and the room ID equals to the socket that assign a room ID. Because a message, let me show you the database, how it works. This is the messages that we have. If I'll refresh, you see it have a user ID and a room ID. This is the message. So we need to build this association, and this is how we do it. We build the association, we make sure everything is okay, and then we insert it. After it was inserted successfully, because if it wasn't inserted successfully, we would have a problem here. But if it was, then we broadcast. And this hash, we're using it because if there's a problem, it's just going to raise an error on the spot. But because we are so sure that things should work, there's no reason that it's not going to work. We're using this hash, this bang sign. And then we want to pass the user and the body. So the user we're passing, and we're rendering this another from the user view, user socket.json. So again, you can imagine user socket.json. All I need in this case is the username. I don't care about nothing else, just the username. And we're passing the message.body, and we're sending back an OK reply. Now, even if you don't understand Elixir Phoenix and you're still new to it, you can see how explicit this is, how flexible. I can create a million different methods and render a million different things. There's no magic here. You want to get something done, just write it. No secrets, it will just work. So I hope I didn't miss anything. And I've showed you in the previous part that it's really working in real time. So this is the Elixir part. Don't be afraid of it. I know people might say to you, I need to know Erlang for this. No, you don't need to know Erlang for doing that. I don't know Erlang. I have no idea how Erlang works, and I was capable of doing that. You want to go to the high level stuff, then you might need to learn a bit Erlang so you can understand concepts like OTP and other stuff, other complicated. They're not complicated, you just need to learn them. But this is very easy, so don't be afraid of it. I really recommend that you will dive in because you're just going to be more productive. Isn't that what we all want? We want to save time when we build apps. So React is a great tool for our front end. I really learned to love it. And on the next part, I will show you why I love it, and I'll show you everything about the Redux part. And this is it. So thanks for listening. Please, any question, ask me. I like to help and I want to help. Okay? See you later.